welcome to the MS202 Lesson 17 on Offensive Operations at the Platoon and Squad level. My name is Captain Silver Beatty. I'm an APMS at the University of Montana, and I'm going to be leading you through this lesson today. So to start off with, we are going to watch a quick video from a very popular movie. You've probably seen it, called Saving Private Ryan. While I'm having you watch this video, I want you to make note of the different strengths and weaknesses of the offensive and defensive actions. Once we complete through this quick video, we're going to go over some questions and then lead right into our lesson.
Store party! No armor has made it ashore. We got no DD flags on the beach. Dog 1 is not open. Who's in command here? You are, sir. Sergeant Horvath! Sir! You recognize where we are? Right where we're supposed to be, but no one else is. Nobody's where they're supposed to be. Store party! First wave, ineffective. We do not hold the beach. Say again. We do not hold the beach. We're all mixed up, sir. We got the leftovers from Fox Company, Ava Company, and George Company. Shore party! Shore party! Cat aft, cat aft. Private here, sir! See anybody else? Jackson, but that's about it! Mellon's here! Caparzo! We got the forest back there with Wade! He's hurt so bad he said it's sprung 100 leaks! Wade says he's all used up! Move on to somebody you can help! Let's go! He's battalion surgeon, sir! That is attention! Wade! Yo, Dodge! Wade! 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 This is all that's made it? Scattered pretty bad, so there's bound to be more. Not enough. Not enough. Dog 1 exit. It's got to be that cut on the right, or is it? Gather weapons and ammo! Gather weapons and ammo! Come on, let's try it out! Hey, right, where's your BAR? Bottom of the channel, Sergeant. Bitch tried to drown me. Find a replacement. Bangalores! Bring up some Bangalores! Engineer coming! Grenades! Grenades! Give me the grenades! Get him over here! Okay. Bangalores on the line! Heads up! Players coming your way! Come on! Jackson here, sir! Right back. Jesus! Come on. Lucky bastard. Move it. Keep it moving. Got it? You're not gonna die. You're fine. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. Bangalores! Clear the shingle! Fire in the hole! Fire now! Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole! We're in business, definitely! Other side of the hole!
Now, to give you some context to the video that you just watched, this depicts that Normandy landing, codename Operation Neptune, which happened on June 6th of 1944, also known as D-Day during World War II. This was the largest seaborne invasion in history, which was also the beginning of the invasion of German-occupied Western Europe. This operation facilitated the liberation of France from Nazi control, which contributed to the Allied victory in the war. The amphibious landings were preceded by aerial and naval bombardment and a massive airborne assault comprised of 24,000 U.S., British, and Canadian airborne troops. Now, the Normandy coast was divided into 5 sectors, called Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword Beaches. Unfortunately, strong winds pushed landing craft east of their intended landing positions, and the worst was at Utah and Omaha. The men reached the beach under heavy machine gun fire from concrete fortified gun emplacement, which overlooked those beaches. Those beaches were mined and covered with obstacles constructed of wooden stakes, metal tripods, and barbed wire, which made the task of clearing the beach and assaulting incredibly difficult. The Allies ended up suffering heavy casualties during this assault, the heaviest of which occurred at Omaha. And the German casualties on D-Day totaled approximately about 1,000 men, while the Allied casualties were at least 10,000, with 4,414 confirmed dead. And now that we've watched that video, we're going to do some thinking here. And first, I just want you to think about or visualize what you thought of that video overall. And now let's talk who was on offense during this operation. And then did the defense or the offense have the advantage here? Well, the answers are the U.S. forces and their allies were on offense during the operation, but the defense actually had the advantage. Those German forces were in fortified defensive positions, as you saw in the video. So, what type of offensive operation was initiated at the beginning? Well, we call this a large-scale attack. It was on the beachhead, and it was in an effort to seize terrain and destroy those enemy assets. And here's a question for you to think about. Is it safe to assume that you'll always have a platoon-size element to conduct your offensive operations? I'm going to tell you probably not, because the enemy always has a vote, right? And you'll likely find yourself executing a mission with less resources than you'd actually like. So it's good to plan or at least prepare yourself for having to conduct an offensive operation at maybe a squad size level, even if it is a platoon offensive operation. And now the last thing that I want you to think about before we really dive in is I want you to think about a time that you volunteered on a project with a team, right? Did you end up being the one of the only people or maybe the only person left to complete those tasks? Think about maybe a group research project where you were the one doing other people's tasks. How does this relate to the squad? And why? So keep thinking through that. Maybe this lesson will kind of conjure up some answers for you. As we go into this, we're going to explain the purpose of offensive operations, analyze the different characteristics of those operations, and then describe the different types of offensive operations. So what's the main purpose of these operations? Well, for the offensive side, it's to defeat and destroy our enemy forces, as well as gain control of terrain, resources, and population centers. So with that in mind, do you think they're focused on personnel, terrain, or both? Well, the easy answer is they focus on all enemy assets. So what are those purposes? Like we said, the main purpose is to defeat and destroy enemy forces and gain control of terrain, resources, and population centers. However, there are additional purposes to these things. First, we use them to deprive the enemy of their resources, maybe secure decisive terrain. Of course, we're always trying to gain information. We want to fix an enemy force into position. Maybe they're used to disrupt an enemy force's attack. And we like to think about this as they set the conditions for successful future operations. Bottom line, offensive operations suppress our enemy's strengths and take advantage of their weaknesses. So So why do we seek to destroy the enemy's will to fight? Well, if they lose the will to fight, they will likely fail to accomplish their own mission. Think about that in your own sense. If you've lost the will to do something, is it easier or more difficult to do that thing that you've set out? Probably more difficult, right? If you don't have the will and motivation to do it, it's going to be harder to actually complete that. And how does knowing the enemy's strength and disposition facilitate our success? Well, pretty simple. It helps us with planning and task organization. So knowing how big that enemy is, what their disposition, what their strengths are, helps us plan and get our tasks organized to complete a mission against them. Right, so we talked about in the additional purposes there that we are trying to fix the enemy, right? So what does that mean? And what does it enable us to do? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. We are preventing them from moving, helps to prevent them from withdrawing, or maybe even using their forces elsewhere. Now we have different characteristics of offensive operations, right? We've got audacity, concentration, surprise, and tempo. Those are your 4 characteristics of all offensive operations. And when we talk about characteristics, that means what do we need to think about when we're conducting an offensive operation? So when you think audacity, think about it just saying that terms like they had the audacity to do this. That is your willingness to take bold risks. Concentration, however, is talking more about your firepower, where you're massing your effects in a time and space at the decisive point to achieve a single purpose. So concentrating your operation, concentrating your firepower into the place that's going to help you actually achieve that mission. And then we talk surprise. That's also pretty self-explanatory, right? We want to attack at a time or a place, or even in a manner that the enemy forces are not prepared for, that they don't expect. Showing the enemy forces what they expect to see while actually doing something different is another way to conduct that surprise characteristic. And tempo, also fairly self-explanatory. It's your relative speed and rhythm of your operation over time with respect to the enemy's also speed and rhythm. So these are the 4 things you have to keep in mind when you're conducting your offensive operation: audacity, concentration, surprise, and tempo. How bold are you? How concentrated is your firepower? How surprised is the enemy going to be? And how quick and fast and what rhythm are you using to get this operation conducted? Now think about it. How do each of those characteristics enable greater potential for mission success? And how can the absence of any of them impact or jeopardize your mission? Okay, now let's move into our types of offensive operations. We have 4 main types. The ones we're going to talk about today are movement to contact, also seen as MTC, and the attack itself. So movement to contact, this is really designed to establish or even regain contact just to better develop your situation. You use a movement to contact when you don't know the enemy's disposition very well. Maybe it's vague, or it's just not specific enough to conduct an actual attack. Maybe you don't know exactly where they are. You don't exactly know what they're capable of. So you would conduct a movement to contact, essentially moving through until you get contact from the enemy or you see the enemy. Now, once you've received contact from that enemy, your leadership has 5 options. They can either attack back, they can defend themselves, they can bypass the enemy, maybe delay the enemy's movement, or withdraw altogether. We won't get too far into depth on what these look like or how to conduct these. That's not the intent of this lesson today. It's really just to give you the information about offensive operations. Now, the second type is called an attack. This is it's a little different from the movement to contact. We still want to defeat our enemy forces. We use it to seize or even secure terrain, but we do this instead of a movement to contact because we actually know the enemy's disposition. And this way we can be more effective in our combat power. So the difference between movement to contact and attack is simply whether you know the enemy's disposition, strength, numbers, etc. Okay, so now our third and fourth type of offensive operation. These are called exploitation and pursuit. You likely won't see these actually evaluated or used as sticks lanes in ROTC. Maybe your program does, but we're still going to cover them because they are part of the four main types. So exploitation, this follows a successful attack, and the point is to disorganize that enemy. They seek to disintegrate the enemy forces so that really they have no choice but to surrender or retreat. Now, this particular type of offensive operation is something that division and higher headquarters normally plan for ongoing operations. Now, pursuit, that is likely a little bit more self-explanatory here. This is simply designed to catch or even cut off a disorganized hostile force that's attempting to escape, and your aim is then to destroy it. This does entail some rapid movement, where it means that you have to be more mobile than your enemy. It can happen during any offensive operation where the enemy flees, and we say that companies and platoons generally participate in a pursuit, but as part of a larger force. So those are your four types of offensive operations: movement to contact, attack, exploitation, and pursuit. Now with each of those, there are different variations. So we have variations to movement to contact, attack, and pursuit that we'll talk about. The ones for movement to contact that you might see are search and attack and cordon and search. Variations to the attack would be ambushes, counterattacks, and raids. And variations to pursuits would be frontal or combination. Again, this lesson isn't meant to teach you or walk through how each of these is done. That's at a higher level, more so just for your general knowledge of knowing what offensive operations are, what you'd typically see, and these variations that you would likely see, especially in attack, would be those ambush, counterattack, and raids. So we'll close this out. We explain the purpose of offensive operations, we analyze the different characteristics of them, and then we describe those four types as well as the different variations. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your ROTC instructor, maybe find an MS4, even a high-speed MS3 that can answer your questions. If you still can't get those answered, feel free to reach out to me at silver.beatty@mso.umt.edu, and I will do my best to get you the answers you're looking for. Thank you.